Imagine if you knew exactly what you needed to nourish yourself in any given moment and had a library of yoga and lifestyle medicine resources at your fingertips. The doors to my new program are open for a limited time. Rooted Woman is an online community of like-minded women that helps you to truly connect with your body's wisdom, balance your root chakra, and let go of fear once and for all, using yoga and meditation, lifestyle medicine such as Ayurveda, and a deep connection to nature. You can go now to alyssaPfennig.com/rooted woman to learn more and join me inside. You'll receive lessons and practices delivered to you every month to help you find balance and live in harmony with each season. It includes monthly yoga and meditation classes with me, and ultimately an online class library that you can access anytime. And if you want to go deeper or desire a more customized approach, there are limited spots available to work one-on-one with me. Just reach out to me personally. Join now at alyssapfennig.com/rooted woman. Don't delay as the doors close soon. Woman after woman has come to see me for yoga therapy over the years, and the recurring patterns I saw in every one of them was a disconnection from their body, specifically their pelvic bowl. In fact, I would always joke, I want a t-shirt that reads, "It's always the pelvis." Why? The pelvis is our foundation for both from a structural standpoint and energetic as our life force flows from head to toe. So tune into today's episode to learn more about why you should pay attention to your pelvis physically, energetically, as it holds the truth for you. Join me inside and let's dive in. Welcome to the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Pfennig, and this is your space to learn more about the importance of slowing down, taking care of yourself, and the mind-body connection. And most importantly, how to reclaim your health by listening to your body's innate wisdom and reconnecting with the earth. Hi everyone, it's Alyssa. I'm a certified yoga therapist, and you know I'm super passionate about helping women release fear, transform shame, and especially trust in the body's wisdom using yoga, nature, animals, and spirituality. So today I'm sharing my top 3 reasons why you need to pay attention to your pelvis. This often ignored area, something that I've seen very dissociated from, including myself. This has been my own journey. And so I really started to notice this in myself, but I saw woman after woman come to see me for yoga therapy. And yes, I integrate other things in yoga therapy, but over the years, what I saw was every single woman who came to see me was disconnected from their pelvis, and yes, their body in general. And some of you have been my clients and understand, I'm dissociated from my body. It was one reason you seeked out yoga therapy, but it was the pelvic bowl. And there's so many things, not even the dissociation from it, but we're going to talk today about whatever someone came in with. I'd be like, okay, well, let's look at your pelvis. And people would look at me funny because I wanted a t-shirt that said, it's always the pelvis. And why? Because, we're going to dive into those. It's the foundation of so many things. But first I'll talk to you a little bit. Let's just dive in, because I want to talk about, the first thing. The first reason. Structurally, the pelvis, it's like the foundation, it's the gateway, both structurally, on a physical structure and an energetic, because the life force flows through from head to toe. So if there's tension in the pelvis, if there's, if you hear my daughter screaming, that's her new thing. And she's in the next room. And so so there's all kinds of things here. But we tend to avoid it. We don't talk about it. This area is dirty and shameful. That's sometimes what we're taught. I've certainly had clients tell me that's what their mothers taught them. And so this is why I'm so passionate about sharing this. But let me tell you a story. Once I had a client come in and she had a shoulder issue. And I have physicians who refer to me and other healthcare providers. So her physician referred to me, and I was like, okay, so, okay, it's your shoulder, it's your left shoulder. Let's take a look at what's going on in your pelvis. And she was sort of like, okay, no one's ever put those together. And we worked on the tension in her pelvis and relieving that, not necessarily internally or anything. I'm not trained in that. That's what pelvic floor physical therapists do. But in just like, is it level? Is it twisted? Is it hiked up on one side? Because there, it will correlate and shoot and refer pain to another part of the body. And so what I often saw is that it can be, well, there's certainly lots of layers, because in the yoga therapy world, we look at the different layers of the body: the physical, the energetic, the mental, emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual layers. And of course, those first three are like where a lot of the meat is, because we're working on getting those organized first. But if a structural thing is out of balance, then it can pull on a shoulder or a knee or a foot or anything like that. So any of the limbs, and it can start to cause issues. So like in my own practice and journey, I have found that if my pelvis goes out of place, it can pull all the way up to my shoulder and all the way up to my arm. There's other things which I'm not going to go into today, but that's why I would always look at the foundation and see what's going on here. And I remember this woman and was like, no one has ever connected those dots before. It's always the typical approach is to look at the shoulder, to look at the functions of the shoulder. And there are certainly reasons to only look at the shoulder and making sure that it's strong and all the muscles are working, or there's not bone on bone, that sort of thing. However, the yogic view will look at the whole body. And so that's the connecting of the dots. Like, well, it's not just the shoulder, it's the pelvis or something else, or maybe the liver is congested and pulling on, that sort of thing. There's all kinds of reasons, but this is why the pelvis can't be ignored, because a lot of times the pelvis and it being out of balance in some way structurally can cause shoulder issues or another issue. And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to the pelvis. It's why it's so, I spent this morning using like little balls, myofascial balls, releasing my abdominal muscles and my psoas and obliques because my back was feeling a little tight. And so in that, I was able to release some on the pelvis. Specifically, you might think, well, why would a pelvis being out of place affect my shoulder, for example? And I talked about pulling. Well, it's not brand new, but it's newer in the scheme of things, is the fascial system. So there's this sheath of tissue that envelops the muscles and the bones, and it can get restricted and pull onto different parts of the body. And so it's actually releasing the sheath allows the muscles to relax instead of be contracted, and the body come back into balance, and then ultimately the bones too. So we're working with that. And there are different ways. That's why yoga is so helpful, because yoga is working on the physical layer, working on the energetic layer, which is thought to be housed, like your meridians and stuff, in this fascial tissue. And so we're releasing and relaxing everything and allowing the body to come back to balance. Now, there are many reasons why the pelvis will continue to get twisted or torqued and pull into the same way. And there are tons of reasons and layers, more than I can go into, but what I'm going to talk about next is something that usually happens, and one of my favorite things to discuss. So before I discuss kind of the physically what can happen, I'll talk about the uterus as is the second heart of the woman, or the uterine energy if you no longer have a uterus from a hysterectomy or some other reason. So the uterus is the second heart of the woman, and it's held up by ligaments, and so it can move around, the bladder can move, that sort of stuff. And then of course they're all enveloped with this fascial tissue, and you know, can think of a net or that sort of stuff, or in between an orange, in between the orange slices, you can think of that kind of holding everything in place together. So if the uterus is the second heart of the woman, and we talk about all these different layers of the body, well, the different layers can go out of sync and affect the physical layer. So maybe emotionally, your heart is out of, you know, it's hurt. So your main heart may be hurt, but your second heart of your uterus, or the uterine energy, may be out of balance. And one of the things I felt out of balance, and I seeked out some ways to take care of that. And one of the things that someone introduced me to was Mayan abdominal massage, or Arvigo therapy. Dr. Arvigo, she had studied with a shaman, Dr. Alegio, for many years as an apprentice, and brought this Mayan abdominal massage, documented all of it with his permission, and started training people. So we're really lucky that all of these, you know, amazing things are out there. But that's where that thought of the uterus as the second heart, and so it can be out of place and then put pressure on the lymph flow, the blood flow, fascial restrictions. It can put the pelvis out of sync, that sort of stuff. And there's of course many other reasons too, but that is why it's so important to pay attention to the pelvis and pay attention to our second heart, or the energy of it. Remember, I don't want anybody to feel excluded, because sometimes if you're like, well, because I know that's the first thing. I have a good friend who, you know, that's the first thing she thinks of. And I'm like, but the energy is still there. You can still work with the energy, and we'll talk about that next. So for me, Mayan abdominal massage helped me so much, and I'm a huge proponent, because my uterus was always kind of hanging out on the left side, which energetically it was like hiding, and it was, you know, not ready to shine and be in front of the world and that sort of stuff. And so with time and sessions and practice and doing my own self-massage that I was taught, I was able to get in touch with this and start to move the stuckness here. And so the journey with the pelvis is it can be a long journey, because it was probably a long journey to get where it is and out of sync. But with moving the physical, you actually address and touch the emotional, mental, and the energetic as well. So they're all interrelated. And of course, the uterus is also really connected with our spiritual world. It's kind of the portal for women, for spirituality as well. So, you know, you're affecting all of these different layers, but you can do it with a physical session. And I still, I actually returned to my abdominal massage. My daughter's 15 months old now, and I know I have tons of scar tissue, and so we're working with some different things to make space in that area, because I know the pelvic bowl is so important. So one of the things that when I started working with my pelvic bowl and realizing the uterus is the second heart of the woman, I started I as a yoga therapist, I'm trained in the chakras. And for those of you who don't quite understand what the chakras are, it's a map of the psyche on the body. So we have these 7 chakras, and in different places they're documented differently, but we'll go with the 7 framework, which is the most common. And your first one is your root chakra. And so that is the energetic layer. So we just talked about, the physical kind of layer, but your root chakra is the energetic layer of the body. And that is your sense of belonging and feeling safe, feeling comfortable in your body. It's the foundation of the energetic system. So that psyche on the body, it's the foundation of your life. I always equate it, so I know in school I studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which, wasn't something like he just came up with. I'm sure he studied some of these ancient traditions and it kind of made sense to him. So your basic needs are always at the bottom of that triangle. And that's what the root chakra needs. Your emotional needs met. You have your financial stability, that sort of stuff. So when the root chakra is balanced, this energy here, you feel safe, secure, you feel grounded, and you're shifting those limiting beliefs that I am not good enough, I'm not worthy, those sort of things, fear, the shame that's held in the pelvis. You're transforming and shifting that. So when it comes to, and before I go on, you're feeling comfortable in your physical body. That is one of like a well-balanced root chakra, is feeling comfortable in your physical body, which I know is a struggle for many, many people, men and women. But as a woman, I totally understand that. One of the things I remember is, I've been really thin, and right now I'm probably at my heaviest. Thank you, COVID lockdown, and the stress of that. And it is what it is. I'm taking care of myself now. But I remember what I realized once, and maybe you can understand this, is even at my thinnest, I remember not loving myself. So it had nothing, or it has nothing to do with my physical appearance. Of course, that it's important. I like to look nice, but it had less to do with my physical appearance and whether I was thin or heavy than really energetically and how my heart or hearts felt about myself. And that is the essence of the root chakra. And getting balance is that loving relationship with your body where it is right now. And, even if it's a postpartum body, because my body is completely different, of course, even if it's, you got a little extra hair, like what we're bombarded with in the body is, bombarded with regarding the body from the media and outside world and society in general is crazy. So we have to, that's an internal thing that we have to develop, that we feel safe and secure in our body. And it actually, you've probably met people like this. You've met them and they just shine. They shine from the inside out, or they glow. And it's not just the pregnant women glowing. It's like these people who are just shining. It's because they are balanced in so many different ways, including this most basic way of balancing the energy of the root chakra and feeling comfortable in their body, loving themselves. And you may even have some times where, I'm just not feeling 100% or, well, but in the scheme of things, like 99%, you're comfortable. So that is the root chakra. And so imbalances in the root chakra show up as digestion and elimination issues. The low back hurting, the legs and feet hurting, and a lot of fear. And so that's why we start here. it's so easy to bypass and go, oh, I'm cutting off the pelvis, because that's what I see all the time, cutting off the pelvis, and I'm going to, the throat chakra or the crown chakra. But you have to do that work. You have to do that work to come to balance, because it'll set the foundation. It's like a house. It'll set the foundation for you to grow. And I've seen it in myself as I've worked through, and it doesn't mean that there still aren't root chakra issues for me to work through. Like it's like if you think of like the blooming onion, like there's layers, there's all kinds of layers and peeling off. But once you set a certain foundation, you'll start to see how it kind of goes up the chakra system, and you begin to address, once you feel a little stable or a little more safe or comfortable in your body, you start to address, okay, now sacral chakra, and then my power center, the solar plexus, and then maybe I'll start to work on being open to receive. And in some essences, you can work on all of these simultaneously, but you'll put your effort onto one place, especially the root first, and while you're starting to evolve and things open up. Specifically, I remember as I started working through this, and I started to I had worked through a lot and started to step into my power and my solar plexus, and I was starting to ask for what I wanted. And it was a horse that reminded me, as they sat there supporting me, as I cried my eyes out, I wasn't open to receive yet. I felt this layer over my heart. So I needed to go back, and while all of these were starting to shift, my heart was still closed to myself and everyone else, even though I wanted all these things. And so I had to go back to the root chakra and start really building the foundation again. And that's when things started really shifting for me. So that's why I think the root chakra is so important to pay attention to. And I will touch on the sacral chakra, because of course that's in the pelvic bowl. It's in the area where the uterus or uterine energy would be. And this is also feeling comfortable in your own skin, accepting of your emotions, and allowing yourself to flow with change and create. Doesn't have to be creating a child, doesn't have to be creating a business. It could be doing art or dancing or some way of expressing yourself. And when you're out of balance, physical symptoms of a sacral chakra imbalance may be infertility, impotence, menstrual issues. Those are a key indicator, menstrual issues, like right now. My babysitter has told me how it's so commonplace for them to be, she had told me, I think my jaw dropped to the floor. She just turned 20, so she said she was put on birth control in 8th grade, and that was a lot later than all her friends. And I said, what? Because I know that a healthy menstrual cycle, what that means for the rest of the body, or when you're having menstrual issues, what it means. And so I just felt like that was too young. It is too young for it's not the solution. When menstrual issues are there, it is an indication that something else is going on. Inadequate nutrition, not enough healthy fats or proteins, emotional issues, instability in childhood issues, those sort of stuff. So there's lots of layers that we need to address and pay attention to. I also, for the sacral chakra, some other physical symptoms, also lower back, because we're tied, all to this pelvic bowl here, kidney and stomach disorders, and emotional instability and fear of change and sexual dysfunction. And addictions are tied to this chakra center. So when in balance, the sacral chakra, you can allow and express and experience your desires, feelings, and pleasures, and you don't care what other people are thinking. And you're feeling more abundant and joyous, and again, going with the flow. So, these are so many layered reasons of why it's so important to pay attention to this area. It's why I preach it all the time. It's why I do my own work. And there are so many ways to work on this. And so I want to hear from you. What did you think of today's topic? Direct message me on Instagram or Facebook, or better yet, join the Wild Wisdom Collective, my free Facebook group, and chime in on the discussion. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and insight. And if you love what you're hearing, please take a moment to click the button on your smartphone to subscribe. Or, better yet, write a review and tell me why you love tuning in. And maybe you'll be featured in our listener spotlight on a future episode. I cannot wait to see you again, same time, same place next week. Wild blessings.